طبعا. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is now made the hijrah from Makkah al-Mukarramah. And with him was again Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Amr bin Fuhayr and Abdullah bin Ariqat. And we mentioned, I think yesterday we may have just accidentally said Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. No, he was not with them. I'm not sure. But later on in the evening, I was trying to sleep. I thought maybe I mentioned his name. He is not with them yet. He was left behind in Makkah al-Mukarramah. And he was given specifically the task of returning the belongings which the people had entrusted to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu is now returning all of these possessions to their rightful owners, while the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu has made it to a place called Quba. Quba is just 3 miles outside of Madinatul Munawwara. Those of us who have been fortunate enough to go from Makkah to Mukarramah, who have gone, for either to perform the Hajj or to perform the Umrah, we have been most probably to a place called Quba. Quba, one of the places that the guides actually takes you to first, just outside of Madinatul Munawwara, is Quba. The Prophet ﷺ has just landed in Quba. On his way to Quba, by the way, he stopped at a place called the tribe of Banu Salim. And the Prophet ﷺ would perform his first Jumu'ah khutbah in Islam. This is at a place not in Madinatul Munawwara itself, but at the tribe of Banu Salim. And the Prophet ﷺ has just been, remember, 13 years of untold suffering and hardship in Mecca. You finally had the chance. You could have said anything you wanted to curse those people. Allah would absolutely terminate them. Allah will eliminate and abolish them. But the Prophet ﷺ speaks on taqwa, living a God conscious life, and Allah and preparing for the life hereafter. In a crux, in the nutshell, this was the summary of the khutbah that was given by the Prophet ﷺ. So the first khutbah in Islam is given, and then when he comes to Quba, with him are the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. There is a tribe of Banu Amr bin Auf, and the chief of this tribe is a man by the name of Kulthum bin Hadam. So the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were informed, the Ansar of Medina Munawwara, that the Prophet ﷺ is landing in Quba. They all came and they joined him, and they're overwhelmed with joy. I don't think we can express, I can't to word what joy these people must have felt now that the Prophet ﷺ has finally come. So the first thing he is going to do, he is going to erect and build Masjid Quba. The Prophet ﷺ would himself pick up the stone and carry the stone and place the stone. And the Sahaba would do exactly the same when seeing the Prophet ﷺ do this. And at times when the stones are too difficult to bury or carry, the Prophet or carry, the Prophet ﷺ would press them against his stomach, and the Sahaba would insist, Ya Rasulullah, you don't need to do this, because he's the greatest teacher the world has ever seen. The Prophet ﷺ would continue to repeat the same. Now, Masjid Quba was finally built. They would continue after staying there for about 7 days or so. He had probably landed on a Monday, which is the 12th of Rabi'ul Awwal, which actually, according to some, by the way, we can still be friends after this, but most probably it wasn't the 12th of Rabi'ul Awwal on which he was born. You can check this. You can ask ChatGPT if it's of any help or use to you. I asked ChatGPT the other day, Allah is the greatest. He started off by saying, yes, Allah is the greatest. Allahu Alam. You should read the names of all those people who put ChatGPT together. They're not. Definitely not. Okay, so then what happened? So the Prophet ﷺ was probably born on the 8th of Rabi al-Awwal. 8th. That's the most reliable opinion, nonetheless. But he lands in in Quba on the 12th. And when he lands here now, the Prophet ﷺ has built the masjid. He will, after spending 7 or 8 days here, he will continue to move forward until he gets very close to Madinatul Munawwara. Now, when he's coming close to Madinatul Munawwara, the Abyssinian archers are putting on a display. Anas radiallahu anhu said this was the greatest day of happiness and joy for the people of Medina. He's actually in Madinatul Munawwara now. And every single person residing there is hoping that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to take rest or is going to stay at their house. And these are the Ansar whose hospitality is unmatched. It's proverbial. Allah speaks about it in the Holy Quran. وَالَّذِينَ جَاءُوا right before that, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. These are Ansar, about whom the Prophet ﷺ would later on say, لو سلك الناس واديا وسلكت الأنصار واديا لسلكت وادي الأنصار. And al-ansaru dithari wa nasu shi'ari. He said remarkable things about them, that the people take one path, but the ansar take another. I'll take the path of the ansar as well. He said the people are my outer garment, but the ansar are my inner garment that touches his skin. He praised them just wonderfully. So these ansar, now they want that the Prophet ﷺ should give them the honor of allowing them to host him inside their homes. Some of them even grab the reins of the camel the Prophet ﷺ and try to jerk it to get it to come to the where they live. But the Prophet ﷺ says, no, you can't do that. It's not moving on its own accord. Allah is going to get it to halt and stop. Allah is ordering it what to do. It's under the command of Allah. And also because Rasulullah ﷺ can't give preference to anybody. It's going to be tough. If he chooses one specific home, dwelling over the rest, it's going to be a little difficult for the rest of them. So he leaves it. He himself is not guiding at this point the camel. The camel is doing on its own until it comes to the tribe of Banu Najjar. And it sits, it kneels for a little bit. And this is exactly where the door of Masjid al-Nabawi alayhi salatu wasalam would later on be situated. And then it gets up. And then it continues to move ahead. And everybody's just watching very carefully. Which fortunate soul will it be that will get to host the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Until it moves and it comes to the home of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu. What a tremendous honor. We talk about, oh, this person commented, this person replied, this person shouted out, this person. Well, I hosted the Prophet in my house when he first came to Medina. Beat that dream on. And he said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I beg you, you stay on top. I can't be sleeping on top knowing that you're under and the lower. He says, no, Abu Ayyub, I really appreciate the sentiments, but many people are coming to see me all the time. Just make the salam, just see his face. Allahu Akbar, just see his face and leave. And everybody's doing this constantly. I don't want to cause you and your family any inconvenience. So then Abu Ayyub radiallahu anhu said, okay, that's fine. He says, my wife and I, we used to stay on the top floor, and the Prophet ﷺ was on the bottom floor. On one occasion, some water started to seep. There was a little leak. I quickly went and we took the blanket, we covered it up so it could absorb everything, so not a single drop would cause any inconvenience to the Prophet ﷺ. We used to prepare the food for the Prophet ﷺ ourselves, and we used to present it to him, and he used to eat from it, and he used to send back whatever was remaining from him. And as tabarruk bi athar al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to take blessings from this, we used to study the vessel very carefully to see exactly where he sallallahu alaihi wasallam had placed his hands and left his fingerprints, and we would eat from right there. One day we put a little bit of garlic and onion inside of the food. He would have never approved of desi food, by the way. But anyway, I'm sorry. I like it myself. It's not spicy. So the African brothers are laughing. Yeah. And Allah bless them. So he said, Abu Ayyub radhiallahu said, he said, we prepared this food. We were trying to make it fancy for him. You know, we're trying to make it nice and tasty. And we presented it. And he accepted it. And later on, he returned the vessel to us, but there wasn't a single fingerprint inside. He hadn't partaken of any of it. Got a little worried. I came back to him. I said, Ya Rasulullah, it seems like every time you give the food to us, we look for your fingerprints. And my wife and I, we eat from. Today, you haven't even touched the food. He says, yes, I communicate with angels. I can't have garlic and onion smell emanating from my mouth. Anyways, we continue to host them like this until the Prophet ﷺ would begin the construction of Masjid al-Nabawi alayhi salatu wasalam. Tomorrow, inshallah.